John Curran, Minister of State, full interview, 27th of January 2010.
Okay, John. You've just uh, made a presentation to an Oireachtas committee hearing into the launch of the new local and community development programme, which, as you say, is a process that's starting and will continue throughout this year. What can you say today to voluntary management people who've been running their own project for the last 5 or 6 years and that may go by the wayside?
Well, I suppose the first thing to reiterate the point is this is a merger of two programmes. We're bringing best practice from the two programmes into one single programme. We're trying to avoid duplication. We're trying to enhance the outcomes for the communities. Now, I know in particular that the voluntary boards obviously have concerns, and I've made the point today at today's meeting, and I reiterate the point specifically, that we are now at the beginning of a process, not at the end of that process. And we're affording local opportunity to come together to new merger arrangements rather than saying one size fits all. So we're encouraging CDPs and local development companies in their own area to come together and talk and look at different programmes that might suit their arrangement. But at the moment, voluntary boards of management have a lot to do, a lot that doesn't necessarily provide the frontline service because they're tied up in red tape, corporate governance, audit and so forth. The new structure will allow them focus their primary attention on providing services for the communities in which they reside.
Okay, well, one of the TDs in the Oireachtas committee pointed out that there's no precedence for this in Ireland where a normal committee listens to an advisory committee, unless you can name one here now.
There's no, well, we're setting up a new structure, and community and local development is fairly advanced in Ireland, so I don't think it necessarily has to be a problem where the advisory committee could provide the day-to-day details on running programmes and so forth. But we also have situations where we have community development projects hosted by partnership companies that are not legal entities in their own right, and that equally works. Yeah. Now, the point I'm making specifically is we're at the start of a programme where that level of process of engagement between the CDPs and local development companies in their own area should begin over the next coming months to look at arrangements and structures that might be suitable for them.
Hosted projects, when they began, a lot of them encountered difficulties. That was in the early years. I don't know today how well they are doing. Are they really as good as you're saying? What information have you on it?
Certainly from the department's point of view, they seem to be operating well and they're happy with them. And I suppose, yeah, they were new at the point in time, but the department, Pobble, who have oversight for all of these, would review them and they're satisfied with them. And the other thing to say is that, it's not the projects, the CDPs and the local development companies are not being left on their own in this process. Both officials in our department and Pobble will engage with the local development companies and the CDPs to come up with structures and arrangements to integrate their services in their own area.
Where a philanthropist or a local HSE branch wants to spend some money in a very disadvantaged area and the CDP is gone and there's no group of its type to give the money to do the work, they don't trust in the partnership's ability to do the same. How can we leave something behind whereby...
We don't, and that's a challenge obviously for a department, but CDPs unfortunately have closed in the past where an element of their work was funded through another state agency, and we've managed to find another entity to take that project on. That's part of the whole process to make sure that the frontline services, and I've been very conscious of this, and that's why from day one we're in a transition period to ensure that frontline services to communities are not lost in this process. I think the real issue that arose, and obviously it's the concern of this transition period, what will the role for voluntary committees be? Is it going to be one size fits all? How does that engagement begin? And the point I was trying to make specifically, it is local engagement between local development companies and CDPs, and we're at the start of the process, not at the end of the process, and I was trying to emphasise that point. Plus, that where that process was being meaningful, where there was real engagement, sure there may be issues, but officials in my department and officials in Pobble will assist to deliver that. We've set out the broad policy criteria where we're going. We had up to now 230 delivery structures, limited companies, and all that goes with that. An awful lot of red tape, the corporate governance, the compliance with company law, the audits and so forth. We're trying to simplify that to the benefit of the communities so people will have more time to deliver the frontline service.
Are you open still to an alternative national model?
Well, so long as the national model meets the criteria as set down, that it's an integrated programme, it's a single delivery programme, and we've set out what the objectives and so forth. But at this point in time, we have sort of certainly indicated to local groups that they should now start discussing
Okay.
locally